Hi, everybody. We're the Skeleton Crew, and today we are not talking about a Troceraptor. And we're not doing that for very good reasons. Incredibly atrocious. The reason for that is that we realized that it's Mother's Day weekend. Or it's not Mother's Day weekend right now. Videos are recorded prior to the date at which you watch them. But the date you watch this video will... due to the linear nature of time. The date you watch this video, if you're watching it on the first day it's released, will be the day before Mother's Day in the US. And given that we noticed that there was this little correspondence happening, we made the executive decision to defy the wheel. And we're pushing a Dromaeosaur that is based upon 3 bones that I'm sure we'll manage to talk about for like 3.5 hours. We're pushing a little bit so that we can talk about the good mother lizard herself.
And
Maiasaura.
We're doing this because 2 of us are very good Italian boys who love their mother.
Yeah, we are.
And also everyone else loves their mother. But
Indeed.
Yes. And Maiasaura is very famously the good mother lizard. But before we talk about the good mother lizard a little bit more, we should introduce ourselves to you. As my mother knows very well and will never stop telling people out of pride, I'm Dr. James Napoli. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences and North Carolina State University.
My name is Amelia Zietlow. I'm a PhD candidate at the American Museum of Natural History.
As my mother manages to elegantly weave into almost every interaction that we had with other people here, my name is Scott Johnson, and I'm a vertebrate paleontology fossil preparator and technician at Harvard University's Museum of Comparative Zoology. Hi, Mom.
my name's Alex Rubenstahl. I'm a PhD candidate at Yale University, which is a university that is in the town near where my mother grew up. That's a mom fact for you.
Mom facts.
Mom fact. I'm Dalton Meyer. I'm also a PhD candidate at Yale University. It is not particularly close to where my mother is or where she grew up, so I miss my mother a lot, many times. But what is a mom fact is that my mom raised me alone. I don't have a father. In a broad sense.
There was no father.
I was conceived in divorce. No. Lest you think it was an immaculate birth. It was not. But
hey, Scott, you're clearly not a good Catholic boy, because you would know that the Immaculate Conception is referring to the birth of the Virgin Mary being born without original sin.
Yeah, is it a conception, the birth? No, think before you speak.
Together,
We're the skeleton crew.
Amazing.
We're the Skeleton Crew. Sorry, I was laughing about Catholic facts. Now,
That's
unfortunately,
a Catholic fact.
That's a Catholic fact. Unfortunately, as Dalton has intimated, he will not be present when we do a recording for a Father's Day.
I disappear.
Yeah.
That's pretty
We'll have him start in the video, and we'll just have it fade out, like as we do the intro.
He's got to leave halfway to get cigarettes, so he won't be in the rest of the video. Okay.
Anyway,
We're done
let's
with these.
release Maiasaura.
Yes. Oh, there's 2 of them.
This is
Getting out of hand.
Now there are many of them.
Hey, these are actually fine, and everyone's being ridiculous.
Yeah, I thought I really didn't like it, but as it comes out, I'm like, yeah.
It's fine.
I think I just don't like the animal.
Yeah, it's kind of an ugly animal. But
It's not
the
that
designs-
ugly.
How dare you? That's
It's
somebody's
not.
mother over there. That's a good mother lizard. You call it...
I think Brachylophosaur and Hadrosaurs are just not that. Like, I think they're kind of boxy looking in a way that reads as unappealing. Like,
They're
it's nothing wrong with the model.
They're very cowish.
Yeah. But, like, look, it's being depicted quadrupedal. It pops a wheelie when it runs.
So I have a stupid question.
Yes, of course.
Is that also the case for... So are the Saurolophines on a different rig than the Edmontosaurians, apparently?
Well,
I'm sorry.
Lambeosaurians.
The Lambeosaurians. Yes,
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah, they are.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Was that the case in the first one?
Yes. Maiasaura and... They have a wonderful social animation.
Ooh, I like
That's
that.
so
Yeah,
cute.
That was cool.
They jump around like cows. Like, it's cute. I bet they have best friends, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, in the first game as well, it was 3 dinosaurs that were on the Edmontosaurus rig. It was Edmontosaurus itself, it was Maiasaura, and Muttaburrasaurus was also on that rig
right.
before they gave it its own rig in this game. But no, it's a really, really good rig. They move properly.
Yeah, we've had the privilege of depicting or talking about many of these hadrosaurs recently, ornithopods, ornithischians, and privilege, I say, having flashbacks to the process of editing Tyrannosaurus. But I think we've talked multiple times about like the bipedality not being correct, and this is probably exactly right. I mean, spoilers for a future video, I like the Edmontosaurus design better.
Oh yeah.
This is but I think I just like it better aesthetically. Like, this is quite accurate to what we know about this animal.
I remember talking with Dalton earlier today about planning ahead for the ranking and being like, see. And I can tell you after looking, no, wait, we weren't talking about Maiasaura. I'm hallucinating. No. I've made up an intro. Never mind.
Oh, wait, what does its name mean? It's not like I said it in the first 5 seconds of the video. I'm sorry, Amelia. What is its name?
That's fine.
This one's easy.
It's very easy. It means good mother lizard. I think it does it mean good mother specifically, or just mother lizard?
I think it means specifically Maya is apparently, according to the Nature paper that named it, Maya in Greek means good mother.
They're Greek word specifically for bad mother.
I thought it was just mother, because I know that like we've always translated like Maiacetus as a proto-seeded whale that I worked on back at Michigan a couple times as just the mother whale, because that one was found with a fetus in its womb that was fossilized with it. So it was just like, that one's the mother. I guess it should be, according to that, the good mother whale.
Well, wait a moment.
Well, if it were a better mother, it wouldn't have died with its child.
That's a good point.
According to Wiktionary, which is I found to be a usually pretty good source for these things, Maya is ancient Greek for a midwife or a nurse. I think it's like a wet nurse kind of connotation.
I'm also doing down the Wiktionary rabbit hole. But it looks like meter, or maybe mater, is the ancient Greek for mother.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And then
it's just mother.
Maya is more of like an honorific term.
Oh.
That in addition to being used for wet nurse, it might be kind of like an honorific, like, older woman kind of taking the role of good mother.
Well, we also just had a James Read the third listed definition thing, which says Maya is either translated first as midwife, second as foster mother or nurse, or third as good mother or dame, I think in the honorific sense, and not like you're in a film noir novel.
So not, there was a dame who came into my office, but instead Dame Maggie Dench.
I think,
yes.
Yes.
You mean Judi Dench?
Judi Dench.
Judi Dench. Oh, God, Maggie Smith. I was thinking Dame Maggie Smith.
I clicked the word dame, and then a picture of Judi Dench appeared on the computer because she's on the she's on the Wiktionary page for that. Yes,
that's great. Good for her.
See, James, I think that this would also be an interesting one because your linguistic pedantry, because Maiasaura is specifically the feminine version of it. Like, it would be, as traditionally dinosaur names are written, it should be Maiasaurus, right?
No. Not necessarily. I mean, yes, usually Saurus is used, which is masculine, and may in Greek also be neuter. Because, like, I think Latin and Greek are both united in this. Like, there are masculine and feminine and non-masculine or feminine, like, neuter words. Often, for a lot of these, like, the masculine and neuter will have the same form. But in this case, and this is actually something that linguistically, quote unquote, so that I don't get too pedantic here, should happen, is that you are supposed to try to match the genders of the different word parts that are used. So because Maya is feminine, you would then use Sora, like you would femininize that. So
what you're saying is this is the only correct dinosaur name.
This is the only... Well, you're also not supposed to mix Latin and Greek. Well, actually, in this case, you didn't,
damn.
because it's
Oh,
Maya
good.
and Sora are both Greek. But because I think we accidentally cut this part here, the species name of Maiasaura.
I've always misread it, but this time I will not, is Peeblesaurum, which is named for the Peebles families. I'm told there are multiple.
It's listed as James and John Peebles families, so I think they're probably like, they're probably brothers, or maybe it's like
yeah.
a father and a son. I don't know. But it was their land. I don't know the story about those families. This is also, I'm realizing, I always thought it was Peeblosaurum. Like, I thought it was sore, like, before I knew Latin, I thought it was like lizard coming in again. But the aurum is the ICZN mandated. You are naming this after a plural group of people that includes at least one man. And so therefore you use the masculine ending, which is a ludicrous rule to continue maintaining. But anyway.
So, okay, we talked about that its name means the good mother lizard. Why, though?
Well, I think
look
this
at
seems like a natural pivot to phylogeny. So, Alex, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, sure.
Is it? Does it? Okay,
No,
sure.
that's what we call in the industry
Check off your failed segue.
a joke.
Spot on the bingo card.
So Maiasaura was a really important discovery because there was a long kind of gap in our understanding of dinosaur ontogeny, and Maiasaura was one of these first discoveries that I think really kind of got paleontologists thinking about dinosaur reproduction. The first dinosaur babies were actually found by AM&H expeditions to Mongolia and China, or what's now China. So, you have the infamous Protoceratops eggs that were mistaken for being... Well, I'm sorry. They were mistakenly identified as Protoceratops eggs. They were Oviraptor eggs.
Watch our Oviraptor video.
Right. And
Here, linked.
We're going to forget to link it. But it's on our channel. Click on our channel.
Search. Use the search bar.
Like and subscribe and smash that bell.
Yeah, exactly. To be notified about 8 months ago when we released a video about a forego. And at the Iran-Dabasu Formation in Mongolia, or what's now China, in what's the region that's known as Inner Mongolia, there were a number of juvenile dinosaurs found. A lot of these belong to like Probactrosaurus. There are others as well. Those are like these old discoveries, and until the 1970s, there had not really been juvenile dinosaurs discovered, especially not young babies. So, Maiasaura was discovered in the Two Medicine Formation in Montana. I think Dalton has recreated it here fairly faithfully. It was probably a very arid environment, but we can talk about that a little bit later.
Wait, it
Looks
wasn't
a lot like
upgraded.
Montana nowadays.
Yeah, it probably was. It was probably highly seasonal and semi-arid.
But Dalton, was it a...
Braided River, kind of, but not as much.
Huh.
Like the Egg Mountain site's pretty terrestrial.
Yeah. And that may the fact that one of these is known as Egg Mountain may have revealed to you, the viewer, that there's a fossil locality in the Two Medicine Formation called Egg Mountain, and you don't get any points for guessing what's discovered there.
Mountains.
Actually, it's a place both Dalton and I have
Stood near.
at least seen.
Yeah.
You've been to Egg Mountain?
Yeah, when on our cross country road trip, we it was
Oh.
a stop.
I didn't know that.
I've
Not
never
everyone
been to
stopped.
the Two Medicine.
It's really a plaque that looks over a gigantic canyon, and you can't go any closer. So
Yeah.
it was
I
cool.
see.
I had a good time.
Yeah, me too.
Well, when I was at the Museum of the Rockies recently, they actually told me they still work the site actively. There's like a lot of material coming out of it. Yeah, like the excavations are just continuous. But this first discovery that was reported in the journal Nature in 1979, so this was considered a very significant discovery, was the skeletons of 11 baby hadrosaurs jumbled together in what appears to be a big concave structure that's littered with eggshell. And so they're basically like this. It looks like a nest, and it's been interpreted as a nest ever since, with this eggshell kind of in a ring around the remains and all the baby skeletons in there. So what I'm currently reading the paper again to figure out is how we assign these babies to the adult animal Maiasaura, because that was They were named Maiasaura was named in that paper, but the holotype is an adult specimen.
I think
And so, yeah, go
are
ahead.
those YPM? Because I think we have those.
Well, this is another little story that arises from this. They were originally Princeton.
Yeah.
So they're ours now.
Yep.
We'll tell that. Should we tell that? Explain what that means.
You know what? While I read this, why don't you go ahead? Yeah.
I'll explain. Dear viewers, beloved channel, in the, I want to say 60s. Well, all right. So there was the molecular. I'm not talking about when the sale happened.
Oh, sure.
I'm talking about the change of thought. So, as we entered the age of DNA and molecular science and stuff such as this, there was a lot of excitement, which was correct to be excited about because it's cool. Some museums shifted focus from organismal specimens to this kind of research, and Princeton focused into this and was like, we don't need animals anymore, and then sold their fossil collection to the Yale Peabody Museum, which purchased a ton of it. So there's a ton of stuff in our collection, which is YPM VP-PPU or PU.
VPPU. I know because there's a lot of mosasaurs from Princeton,
Yeah.
so I'm
So we've
familiar with the.
A ton of stuff that used to be in the Princeton collections, and amongst those, because when Dalton and I were pulling shelves looking for stuff like months ago, we just pulled a shelf and I'm like, hey, is this a baby Maiasaura? Mm-hmm. It was pretty cool.
It was.
Now, also to plug, but Princeton has just hired a very cool and king paleontologist, Chris Griffin, who will be starting a new lab there, who's awesome.
Yeah.
And will be revitalizing their paleontology department.
It's a remarkable decision, actually, to be made by an institution to bring paleontology back. I would like it if more institutions did this.
It'd be cool.
Usually
I'd like
the
them to
other
do it.
direction.
And then them to hire me and say, we're doing this and here's a job.
That would be
cooler.
Cool.
That would be great. So I have found the answer, but I do want to return to the Princeton thing. The skull of Maiasaura that became the holotype was found within 100 meters of the nest.
Oh.
And they acknowledge in the paper that because of the ontogenetic changes going on, it may not be possible to say that the juveniles are necessarily members of that species, but they're naming the new species based on the large adult skull that was found near them. But they kind of acknowledge it may not be a Maya. Well, right. But they're saying it may not be a Maiasaura nest in particular, but the adult is what became Maiasaura.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I would be shocked
That makes
if
sense.
it wasn't a Maiasaura next.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah. What is also interesting, and I think was the interesting part of this paper, is that what they also describe is the two medicine formation had produced a lot of these assemblages of immature animals that were found together. And the argument of this paper that was kind of revolutionary at the time, this was 1979, remember, so this is before the dinosaur renaissance has really kicked off, is the idea that you're finding animals in these what appear to be nest assemblages that are quite large and have been feeding. So this is not necessarily a bunch of hatchlings that got killed catastrophically and are preserved by chance. The idea here was the parents are bringing them food. Mm-hmm. And like baby birds, they're staying in the nest for a long time while the parents are bringing them their sources of nutrition.
They're snacks.
Right. And eggshell fragments are found all throughout the two medicine formation. According to this paper, at least, eggshell fragments are actually the most common fossils in the entire two med. Which is pretty cool. And so this is a really important paper in the history of paleontology. Because the idea that dinosaurs were good parents, we often now in the popular kind of consciousness attribute that to oviraptorosaurs. I think because of these stunning fossil finds of oviraptors on their nests. But the idea goes back, about 15 years prior from those discoveries with these nests that are full of shattered eggshell and baby dinosaur skeletons, which are found repeatedly in the two medicine formation, which we'll talk about a lot more. It's not just this one nest.
Which, if you're asking my opinion, the Psittipati is the better parent because it died. And then, where's the Maiasaur? They left.
Well, it was 100 meters away. It was killed while fleeing. It was killed while going to pick up cigarettes.
Maybe that was just a family friend who was stopping in.
Which way was it facing? Was it leaving or was it coming back?
That's a good question. They don't report that.
Who's got
See,
the field notes?
I gotta go back to the MOR and be like, I need to know.
Which way?
Actually, Alex,
Show me
you
the
probably
card
have them at
definition.
any field notes that are associated.
They, yeah, probably. I saw the Tenontosaurus like field. You know, I don't know if there's a specific term for like when they draw where the bones are in
Field
the ground.
map.
Quarry
map.
Field map.
Quarry map. Quarry
Yeah,
map. That was the word I was
I was
forgetting.
asking Dan for the original Silurus ornitholestes description from John Ostrom, and that was one of the things that got pulled.
Oh,
See,
that's cool.
And I want to ask something, James. That you said that it was kind of like before a lot of the dinosaur renaissance like kicked off, and I remember this like very distinctly being in like documentaries when I grew up. A lot of this was like hand in hand with a lot of the dinosaur renaissance stuff. They was just like they were probably warm-blooded. They some of them had feathers. Like all of the whole like trees down or ground up like flight stuff, and then always it was Maiasaura with the parental care stuff.
Yeah.
And like I very distinctly remember one of the best examples that like really stood out to me was it was in those PBS dinosaurs exclamation mark shows that we talk about so much, because we always talk about how like the absolutely amazing 2D animations in there. Do you guys remember as well? I believe it was in that documentary, but I could be wrong, and it could have been another documentary from the 90s, that they also had those awesome Phil Tippett Go Motion animations in there, and there was one of them specifically about Maiasaura that I remember very vividly, partially because it was like very haunting, and I think it actually sadly ends with the end Cretaceous, which was bad. But I also remember it showing one of the only depictions I've ever seen of a hadrosaur fighting against a tyrannosaur and winning handily. Like the herd is attacked by like a Gorgosaurus or something, and the Maiasaura just beats the absolute shit out of it and knocks it over with its tail, and it just like limps off ashamed.
Well, that's supposed to be a Tyrannosaurus. I think they conflated a couple of late Cretaceous ecosystems, but because that's the one from the prehistoric beasts thing, which does to me look more like an Albertosaurian, but I know it's supposed to be T-Rex.
But it fights a Centrosaurus in there.
It does.
I
But it
wouldn't
was
worry
supposed
about
to be
And it
T-Rex.
has horns. Oh, okay. All right, cool.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, sorry, you go ahead, Dalton.
I was just gonna say, I think, there, just to alleviate any lingering confusion, which is a very understandable confusion. I don't know if prehistoric beast and the Maiasaura thing came from the same, like, footage stock. Like
They're both Phil Tippett.
They're both Phil Tippett, yes. But prehistoric
Yes.
beast is like prehistoric beast. The Maiasaura thing is called dinosaur exclamation point. So I think it's not in the dinosaurs exclamation point PBS documentary, but it is understandably mix-upable because it's called
insane.
dinosaur exclamation point, which was another, I think, just Phil Tippett short.
At some point, we need to add another word. Like, we went from everything was dinosaur with various punctuation to now everything's prehistoric something.
And the dinosaur.
We need a third word in all these titles.
Well, you know the documentary, I know this, the Maiasaura Good Mother from, that is first in my mind.
No.
When dinosaurs roamed America?
No, an even better documentary
but that
called The
one's
Magic
rad.
School Bus.
Oh!
Yes.
Which, in both the Dinosaur Magic School Bus book, which I read as a child, and I believe the episode where they go, there's a bunch of Maiasaura that I think, like little Troodon, are like stealing their babies and stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The book is great. I remember the book being one of the first things that I read that actually like kind of freaked me out a little bit, mostly because there is a weirdly gory like bit where an Allosaurus eats a, I believe, still alive Stegosaurus in one of the panels, and it's kind of awful. Like, there's quite a bit of blood, and it's ripping chunks of flesh out and stuff, and the Stegosaurus has a very harrowing look on its face. But
I would also feel harrowed in that circumstance.
Very brave of you.
I completely forgot that Maiasaura was in that because, like, I always picture that they had the very distinctive depiction of Parasaurolophus where they depict it with a color-changing crest, which I think is super cool and no one's ever done before. Or done since, rather.
I used to love that.
It's so good.
It's really.
I need to rewatch it one of these days. I bet it's on YouTube.
There's another thing with Maiasaura that I'm trying to think of.
There was when dinosaurs roamed America.
Was Maiasaura in that?
No, you were thinking of Dinosaur Planet.
Oh my god!
You call yourself a real fan.
How do you guys remember any of that?
I forget the birth dates of my loved ones.
So
it's an exchange.
Audience, I was going to say during our Ouranosaurus episode where James goes on this whole thing about like, hey, like this encyclopedic knowledge, you don't need to worry about that. That'll come as you get experience and all that sort of stuff. I had the thought of just like, the first time you forget the name of like a loved one's sibling or like a birth date of someone, it's like, you'll know you're here now. When you'll be like, someone will be like,
you're gonna get old and start forgetting that anyway, Scott.
Exactly. Like it'll be like a situation that happened to me the other day of at lunch. One of my friends was like, "Oh, hey Scott, check it out. I saw this cool this company that makes these like baseball caps with nice embroidery, like natural history stuff on it. Look, here's a T-Rex skull on this one." I was just like, "Oh, that's the holotype skull." And she was like, "How do you know that?" And I was like, I don't know. I don't.
You can tell by the way.
Well, Scott, if you were a true fan, you'd also say the holotype skull is mostly sculpted based on Albertosaurus, because the holotype includes like 4 bones.
Oh, fair. Well, it's
5 bones.
It's the one at the Carnegie.
It's one at the Carnegie. Yeah.
Well, you know what they say. When you're visited by the little gremlin that comes up and says, "You can know everything about 5 groups of animals, but you will remember at most 10 people." Like their names at a given time, do you accept? And you say yes. And then you're like, oh, wait, I have to do a PhD. And then anytime anyone is having a conversation with you about someone in the department, you have to ask, who is that? And then reassure them, it's like, no, if I saw them, I would know. But I just don't remember their name.
I've had people who I've seen around Harvard for years who I've had many conversations with that I call buddy. Hey man, how's it going?
Love to see you.
Jesus.
There are a couple volunteers in the lab at NC State who I'm like, hey,
you.
Their name is Hey. Good to see you.
And any volunteers at NC State who watch this, which we know some of you do, it's not you.
Well,
it's not you, champ. We know who you are.
Yeah, it's not you, little buddy. What I was remembering about Maiasaura that showed it a little bit was also the Eyewitness Dinosaurs.
Oh yeah,
VHS.
Yes,
I am surprised I didn't wear out as a child.
With the kick-ass music.
Have I ever?
We can all sing the theme.
It's mostly about cockroaches too.
Yeah.
If you want to make people lock in, like people in our generation, like all you need to do is play that.
We should do that
before we record Skeleton Crew.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Before we record these videos, we should play that. We will all be so laser focused.
Did I ever tell?
Average time is going to plummet.
Did I ever tell the story about how one time in grade school I was trying to remember how that song went? I was like, oh, I love the Eyewitness song, but I can't remember how it goes. And I was like, oh, I need to explain it to someone to show them so that they might be able to help me. And I wrote it out, but I didn't write it in any kind of music notation. I just wrote da 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 da. And I was thinking of the rhythm. I was like, it goes da 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 da. And then someone looked at it and they're like, I can do nothing with this.
Dalton, did they send you to a counselor after that and you had to fill out a questionnaire?
No, thankfully they're just like, this is not helpful at all. I have also
the song. It goes so hard. Oh my god!
I have determined. I have gone down the dinosaur exclamation point rabbit hole, and I've figured it out. Phil Tippett made Prehistoric Beast first in 1984.
I knew that was a standalone thing. Yes.
And that was done as a standalone, but also kind of a proof of concept for a documentary from aired on CBS called Dinosaur! In 1985. So the CBS Dinosaur! Seems to have the footage from Prehistoric Beast, as well as several other segments featuring other dinosaurs, which seem to include Deinonychus, Brontosaurus.
The Deinonychus one is horrifying. Them killing a Struthiomimus in a very harrowing way. I keep saying harrowing. It's
you watch them eviscerated. You don't see them pull out its organs, but you see it do this it's like a horror movie the way they do it now. You see it do the slash on the belly, and then the cut just kind of slowly appears and starts bleeding.
Because the shot
so
is
cool.
a focus on the claw that you see. It comes up and then like that, and then the way it shows it dying is it's like a tracking shot down the Struthiomimus's tail as it's screaming, as it's flailing around, and then getting slower and slower and slower until it's still. And it's just like, God,
that's crazy.
Man,
It's
kid
pretty
stuff
cool.
used to be cool.
It's got those whip zooms as well, where it's like mimicking what the Struthiomimus is going through, where it's like looking around panicked, and it looks over and zooms in, and there's just the eye of a Deinonychus through the bushes, and it's just like, oh, it's up. It's great. I love that.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Kid stuff used to be cool, man. Actually, I guess it was just like people saw dinosaurs and like, yeah, you can be as brutal as you want. It's even removed from like nature documentary, where it's like these are simulacrums of animals. You can show one like getting decapitated.
Oh my goodness! I have realized, I'm panning through the footage on my other monitor, that the Struthiomimus steals the Maiasaura eggs and then runs off and gets murked by the Deinonychus.
It's a whole story because Phil Tippett knows how to tell a little story. That's great. Oh my god, he's go see Mad God if you like.
I need to watch Mad God.
That stuff. Phil, it's so good. Have you seen it yet, Dalton?
No, I haven't.
It slaps.
Eventually, but back to Maiasaura.
Well, so there's one thing I did want to make sure that we say about the whole Princeton situation, just because I think it's kind of interesting and something a lot of people don't know now. Jack Horner was describing this specimen at Princeton because he was doing excavations for Princeton because he was a fossil preparator at Princeton. That's how his career started. You know, Jack Horner, I think we've talked about a little bit on the channel before, and it's not a secret or anything. Jack struggles from pretty severe dyslexia and wasn't able to complete a college degree. I think he's been hunting for fossils pretty much since childhood. And he wound up as a preparator at Princeton, and he was working there when Princeton decided to shutter its museum and sell off its fossil collection. And I think a large part of why he wound up going through the effort to help make the Museum of the Rockies a reality was because essentially he kind of had nowhere else to go. Right. It's great that Princeton's resurrecting its paleontology research emphasis now. I think it's very long overdue, but it's kind of an interesting and somewhat inspiring story, I think, to see he was clearly very skilled as a fossil collector. He was doing active research on them, and kind of doing what he had to make sure that his role, that he did what he had to make sure that he could continue working in the field and build a new museum to some degree replace the one that had been shuttered. And the Museum of the Rockies has done amazing work in the Two Medicine Formation for a long time, and they found a lot of fossils. Sorry, Dalton. What?
No, I was trying so hard to click on a Maiasaura that's not asleep, and I just kept clicking on the same one. It was just really,
I see.
More like Sleepy Mother.
I'm good at my job.
Hey, moms need rest. We put them through a lot.
We do.
We do.
Mommy needs her candy. Please go play.
Can we? Dalton, is there a Chardonnay dispenser in the game?
No. You may be wondering, what are these things off in the distance that are humongous? Well, these are the best I can do at making the field of hadrosaur nests of Egg Mountain. No, the bodies of water shouldn't be here. I had to put them there to try to attract any of these dinosaurs over here because they were not coming over. They just refused to leave. But this is the vague shape of the nests, not the size. This is the best you can possibly do with the smallest terrain brush in the game. So
It looks good from a distance.
Yeah.
See, no,
just pretend it's the babies.
Yeah, I was about to say put a tilt shift filter on it, and they're just little babies. Except they look too much like the adult animal. We know that that's not the case.
They have cute little baby faces.
I mean, the baby hadrosaurs are really little.
Yeah,
They're really little and they're really cute.
They're really So what is it? So why have you depicted so many nests at Egg Mountain?
because they have found so many nests at Egg Mountain.
Oh, I see.
There's
Thank
a whole
you.
mountain.
What
of
do you
them.
know?
No, it's been noted that they find these nests and they're these big kind of circular depressions with all the eggshells and oftentimes babies in them. And what is interesting is that the nests are spaced roughly the body length of an adult Maiasaura apart from one another, in kind of just a big field of nests like this. And so it's it's been invoked as evidence that I think is fairly convincing that they were nesting communally. That they would get together in one spot, and when it was time for them to breed, and they would make use of these nests. And they would kind of have a big nesting ground. And so it's something you see in a lot of paleo art, are like the Maiasaura nesting grounds. These nests are open top structures, and I think the thought is that they're covering these eggs in plant material.
Now, Dalton.
And then the heat of the decaying plants is what's bringing energy to the eggs. They don't think that these are brooding animals.
Right.
I had a question.
What's your question?
So other animals that make like large communal nests like this, I don't know like what kind, but do they space it by like body length, like anything like an alligator? Like I don't think they do, but do other animals do that?
I can only is there anything today other than birds? Because like I'm thinking like alligators aren't communal; they kind of mind their own business. Turtles.
I think several ratites do it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, because well, I mean, I guess you could kind of argue that sea turtles are communally nesting.
Yeah, kind of.
But not really. No, because they're leaving them. Yeah.
Well, right. Yeah, it's not the same thing. Like they're
No.
communally nesting because they can only get like 3 feet inland, so they all have to lay their eggs in the same spot.
Ostriches actually do something different, which is really interesting. They're also communal nesters, but in a different way. Mm-hmm. They make one nest, and all of them lay eggs together in that one nest, and then they all take turns looking after it.
Yeah. The only other thing
cool.
The other thing I can think of is penguins, but they don't build nests really. Like they kind of do, but not in the way that these things were, or that even normal birds do usually. Like they're pretty low effort nests.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean that's definitely true. I was trying to look up to see, like I feel like either emus or
albatrosses. You're right. Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
And I
think puffins too.
Yeah,
puffins.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The nests. Just looking at this is my one data point. Highly curated is a pretty pixelated image of an albatross nesting ground from Pacific Rim Conservation. The nests look to be maybe 2 albatross body lengths across from one another. They do seem to be like pretty decently spaced, or a wingspan. It's tricky, obviously, to compare because like birds, the length of a bird versus the length of an animal like this is a different and maybe not even like as meaningful a metric for their size.
Especially because they can fold up their wings, and Maiasaura can't really like fold its tail up or anything.
Did you just do a
Transformers?
Incredible. That was cool.
Thank you.
What is interesting is it's mostly waterfowl. Like apparently herons also do this.
Hey, Wildlife Wire. If this is another example of Paleontologists Go Outside challenge, and we're failing to remember things.
Yeah, but I mean, I think regardless of that particular challenge, like I can't think of another explanation for why you would get this huge cluster of single species nests other than
no, it makes sense. No. That wasn't me saying we're wrong. That was me saying, are we missing an obvious like extant animal that does something that's incredibly similar to this that none of us can remember off the top of our heads?
Yeah. I mean, there are many mammals that have like communal kind of breeding and brooding grounds, but they don't lay eggs, so it's not nests.
Right.
Oh, this... Just a second. I found a hell of an image that might just genuinely be exactly what we see in Maiasaura. What the I was just Googling around, and check this shit out, guys. It's a paper I just found. I'm throwing it in our chat here. Look at, like, the first image in here, which is from this communal nesting ground of these... Maleo? Is some bird. That looks like how we've depicted Maiasaura nesting grounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. That's cool.
That is cool.
Kind of like gruiform or something. God, what a weird looking bird.
Right?
It's a silly guy.
Oh, it looks like the egghead, like the 50s or 60s depiction of like a hunched shoulders, long like bird neck, like the Looney Tunes vulture / nerd. Like,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's got
It's-
a Professor Farnsworth quality to it.
It does. It does. It's going to say good news, everyone.
good news, everyone.
I like that the genus name references its giant head extension because the genus name is Macrocephalon, which is
Amazing.
a great genus name.
Big head.
That's a bad genus name
Yeah, here's...
because... Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Here's another image that's even better than that small one in the thing. This is insane. Yeah, they're these guys are just doing Maiasaura stuff. Look at that.
Oh my God,
That's
Dalton,
bonkers.
they're correctly scaled to yours too.
They lay their eggs in enormous craters.
Yeah, no, this is kind of hilarious. I didn't expect to find something that was just oh, well, there you go, as this. But wow.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we learned never doubt Dalton. Jesus Christ, never doubt Dalton.
Never dull Dalton.
Never dull
Never
Dalton.
dull Dalton.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, well, anyway, yeah, I mean, this is incredibly interesting. And one other thing I kind of think is fascinating is, like, if you do look at this as a communal nesting ground, like the Two Medicine Formation, and Dalton, you may have done more research into the paleo environment than I've ever done in my entire life. So you should probably speak to this. But like the fact that it's interpreted as being a fairly arid area, I think would like maybe indicate that they're trying to nest in an area that's unlikely to be flooded. Like clearly occasionally there's flooding here. Apparently the lithology, and I'm going to just open the paper again to make sure I don't switch this. The depression is in a brown mudstone that is filled with a green mudstone.
Mm-hmm.
And so my guess is that this is like fairly distal on a river floodplain that's being like there's some sort of different kind of sediment that's being introduced that's different lithologically. And so, you know, they're probably near a large source of water. The animals would have needed that to survive, especially if they're like taking care of their young and bringing them food and everything. But my guess is that whatever created the conditions at Egg Mountain was maybe a kind of rare event.
Yeah, it was invoked, and I haven't been able to do as much research as I would have liked to into the paleo environment, just time constraints. But what I did find out is that it has been proposed, and it seems like where I heard this said it was proposed, the way it was phrased made it seem like maybe this is like no longer in vogue or maybe even correct interpretation. So could be wrong, but at least it was thought at one point because there are these kind of surrounding and interspersed like carbonate deposits that may have been laid down by like lakes. That this could have been either like a seasonally present island or a seasonally present peninsula. That it seems like the environment was arid, but it was like a semi-arid and seasonal. So there would be a wet season and a dry season, and that perhaps these nests were taking advantage of some topography that only appeared in one season versus the other, or something like that. And that may have, you know, there's any number of interpretations you can make for that. Of like, it's close, it has proximity to water and it's proximity to food, so we can nest here and rear the young for a while, or maybe like, hey, if there's like an isolated island that only appears seasonally, maybe that's a safer place to nest. Who knows? And I think that's kind of up for debate exactly what the environment was. But all of the indicators from the Egg Mountain site itself do seem to indicate that like they've got all these nests They're spaced body length apart in Maiasaura, and everything they find there are terrestrial organs. And there are terrestrial insect burrows and microfossils, and there are paleosols, which is an ancient soil, which indicate kind of like a semi-arid seasonal environment. But I don't think that the mountain was like seasonally flooded.
Right.
So yeah, perhaps it was an area that when it got rainy was one of the areas that was not flooded.
Right. And then, like, maybe there was one particularly bad year when it did flood. And
Yeah.
that's what created,
That's what preserved it.
created this death assemblage. Because there's not a lot, like, there's no Albertosaurus in this enclosure, is there?
No, there are not.
So there's, like, well, I was going to just say a little bit about the kind of other stuff that lives in the 2 medicine. Like, there are a number of fairly small things from Egg Mountain. Like, we talk a lot about preservational biases in the fossil record, and this is one, like, Laramidian North American site that does preserve a lot of small things. There's a bunch of, like, associated small mammals that were the subject of a big paper a few years ago. There's that lizard.
Magnuviator.
Whose name I forget. Magnuviator?
Yeah, Magnuviator ovomonsensis.
That's a
which
good
is,
name. I like that.
its name refers to the fact that it came from Egg Mountain.
Cool.
Oh, right. Bambi Raptor. The little
I didn't
Maiasaura.
know Bambi Raptor was from here.
In fact, I think it was found from basically, like, I want to say it was like under a Maiasaura or something like that. Like, it was close
rip.
by.
Was that, like, for the etymology, do you think that at all inspired the name, or was that just because it was a dainty little dude?
That's because it was a dainty little dude. But
Okay.
Wasn't
Yeah.
it named by a child or something?
It was found by a child.
I've heard kind of multiple.
It was named by a
stories.
paleontologist, wasn't it?
Well, it was. But it was found by a 14-year-old.
Cool.
Yeah.
A young person.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that were me, I would have been so insufferable. Everyone was like, hey, I named it.
Would have been.
Yeah, that's fair.
And more to come on Bambi Raptor from members of the Skeleton Crew later. But Bambi Raptor was found, like, partially articulated. It's a fairly good skeleton. It's a tiny animal.
No, it's
We have
amazing.
we have a 3D print of it in our teaching collection, and it's genuinely like this big. The skull is so small.
It's really, really small. I mean, almost certainly a juvenile animal, but, like, just getting preservation of that is kind of wild.
But still a ickle guy.
Yeah. Anyway, it's an interesting kind of it's an interesting little snapshot that you've got this really diverse fauna preserved in this area, and there's more to come out of Egg Mountain too. All of this new Troodon material that the Museum of the Rockies has recently, like, reassembled and has created a skeletal mount of what they are seem to be calling Troodon. All of that material,
Guess
to
who's
my
back?
understanding, comes from Egg Mountain.
Back again.
And there's juvenile Displetosaurus material as well, which is why I ask about Tyrannosaurus. I guess we don't have Displetosaurus in this game, but the 2 medicine formation is where Displetosaurus horneri is from. And the youngest juvenile material of horneri also comes from my understanding, Egg Mountain. Which is interesting. But, like, there's a dennery. It's one of the paratypes that Carr erected in the paper, but, like, the dennery is maybe, like, that big.
Wow.
Which for a Tyrannosaur is not very large. Anyway.
In this little lull here, can I loop back to those weird birds? Because I did a little bit more reading, and they actually do something really weird, and I want to share.
Yeah.
So, in reading through a little bit more about these Malayo guys here that superficially nest in a way that is similar to Maiasaura, turns out they're actually this is not a good parent bird. These guys. They have a really weird nesting strategy in that they are dense, deep forest birds. But they all, and this kind of ties into what we were saying earlier of just like, oh, there's so many right here. These guys all congregate to this communal place, not because they're communally looking after the eggs or because or anything like that. Like we've hypothesized for Maiasaura of just that, like, many eyes helps keep, like, nest raiders and predators and stuff away. It's because they're finding this one area of incredibly soft sand that's geothermically active next to hot springs.
Huh.
So they bury their eggs deep enough so the heat of the sand incubates them, and then they off and leave, and the birds, like the chicks, hatch out of the nests and then are entirely on their own and grow up without any sort of parental help at all.
Wow.
And this is
It's like-
the first time I've ever heard of a bird doing this. This is some sea turtle stuff, except they only lay a single egg. This is
One
weird.
egg.
This is apparently this paper is I'm not going to say that because I haven't read through the paper, but it seems like it might be also having them all nest together might be an adaptation to just have more of them in the same place, so it's less likely that the one that you laid got eaten. It's like a bait ball strategy. But
Isn't
this is insane. I've never heard of birds doing this before.
That's what's proposed for like those sauropods, right?
Yeah, if anything, it's almost sauropod.
Maybe.
Except for the clutch side.
What if most sauropods were like good parents, and we just got the ones that are doing this weird bird? I mean, I don't think that's true, but
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that because this is very, very, very strange.
oh, I'm glad you shared that. It's
That's
way more interesting than the phylogeny.
extremely
we have to
interesting.
Talk about.
It also,
Yeah.
before we talk about phylogeny, you mentioning the one egg of those birds did make me want to just point out that they find like 30 to 40 of these eggs of Maiasaura in a given nest. Now,
Yeah, there's tons.
if though that's tricky, I think, to interpret exactly how many like a clutch would be, because we don't know if those were laid by one individual or if they were doing an ostrich thing where several individuals might have the same nest. I don't know if there's fine enough control for like if they're using the same nest over many years.
I thought I remembered hearing something a while ago about that there was evidence of repeated nest use in not Maiasaura, but another hadrosaur. That there was like strata of like eggshells within a single nest.
I can't imagine that would be anything but Maiasaura. Like, I'm not aware of us having nests of anything else. Maybe Brachylophosaurus.
It might have been Brachylophosaurus.
And, that's a great dovetail for Phylogeny.
It is.
It's time,
I'm going to look into that.
ladies and gentlemen. We got him, and the we that we got is Phylogeny. Let's discuss. You may remember from our last 18 videos that we've discussed ornithopods. And Geb, we're going to do it again. So, ornithopods are ornithischian dinosaurs. Those are the bird-hip dinosaur, the exclusively herbivorous, for now. That for now is not implying any upcoming research that we know of. Just, I don't know, maybe someday someone's going to find a predatory one. I don't know. Ornithopods are one of the major clades in this. They, like all these ornithischian groups, start as small bipeds and become larger and quadrupedal. I feel like I've said this a million times. Anyway, yeah. So by the end of the Cretaceous, the most successful group of these ornithopods, as far as we can tell, are hadrosaurs. There are others around, more early diverging lineages from a few different parts of the tree. Interestingly, not kind of the in-between hadrosauromorphs, hadrosauriforms seem to be mostly caput. But of the two major hadrosaur groups, of hadrosaurids, the family, there are two major groups: lambeosaurans, which I think at this point we have talked about every single one.
I'm missing one.
No, we haven't. We haven't done Parasaurolophus, the coolest and best one. And then there are the saurolophines. Now, saurolophines are generally characterized easily as like glance, solid crests or no crest, basically. And I'm certain there are other important skeletal features, but I don't work with ornithischians, and I don't know what they are. I know that one because it's easy. In this game, we only have two. We have Edmontosaurus, and Maiasaura. And Maiasaura actually looks... Now, is that like a crest on its head, or is that like a weird protuberance?
Well,
got like
that's
a
a good question.
boring-
Yep.
It's certainly protubering.
Is it the God Emperor? Is it the Dune God Emperor?
As I've heard, it's traditionally been reconstructed and is reconstructed here as a crest, but it seems a little bit more in vogue recently, or at least in some more recent art, to be kind of showing like a backwards most like projection of like some soft nasal areas.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think it could be some different things, but I think part of that is inspired by Brachylophosaurus, which has a very weird, like just posteriorly projecting lamina that just kind of covers the skull roof. It's extremely odd. Like, we talk about how body horror Lambeosaurian skulls are. It's really odd. I can't find... There's no decent picture of it on Wikipedia. Hold on. I have to engage Google search and see if somebody has taken a picture of the top of one's skull.
While you're
here
doing
we
that,
go.
I want to go stir my stock.
Stir it, baby.
Wait, stir no stock, Scott. There's something weird coming.
Ooh, weird.
This is the skull of Brachylophosaurus that I squatted over while I was studying the Daspletosaurus horneri holotype skull at the Museum of the Rockies. They're in the same display cabinet, and to get in, I had to be like squatting to not hit the top of the glass case, and my ass was directly over the Brachylophosaurus. It looks like I had just pooped one out.
That's so funny.
No
There's
wonder
a
he's got
picture.
IBS.
I was fine until I pooped out the Brachylophosaurus.
Where's the picture?
It's on Instagram.
Oh, Instagram.
Yeah, and Twitter probably. But here's
Where
the picture.
did you send it?
Oh, I haven't sent it yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm sending it now.
I
it
was
was
like, you
I
sent
think it
it
was
on
implied.
Instagram?
Sorry. Do you see the weird little cowlick it has going
so
back?
weird.
Is that so weird?
It's like
why does it do
it's
that?
like it's really really trying to be Parasaurolophus.
But with the flat lamina, it's odd.
It's David Peters' time. It's pedomorphic Parasaurolophine.
And I think that's the premax and the nasal. Like, I think it's doing what Lambeosaurians do, but just in a very weird, different way.
Wait, I just put together what you were saying. I was just like, oh yeah, it's a nub on the skull. Who gives? What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean?
Premaxilla?
Yeah. Well, like, you know how
No.
Lambeosaurian crests are the premax and the nasal, like, growing back? I think it's just like if you don't put the nasal chamber in it, but you just kind of do
You
like
just shove it for no reason at all?
and
Their head just did that.
yeah, exactly.
Bad.
Isn't it so weird?
It's like it's like someone took.
I'm sorry.
Someone
I think
designed
it's
an
the
animal.
nasal.
Oh, sorry.
All right,
It's the
no,
nasal.
I
All right,
was wrong. It's the
still
nasal.
weird.
Oh, that's
Thank
better.
God.
It's like someone designed like the inspiration for designing these animals after like what happens if you hit someone in the head and fall out in vats, and they just froze that, and then tried to draw a skull around where the eyes and like jaw end up.
It's so stupid looking.
Very
The
good. Scott.
Maiasaura
Thank you.
is a little different than that,
Yeah.
in that it's got like
Thankfully.
I see how they reconstructed it here as like a ridge going across the head. The photos I've seen, and I've never, held a Maiasaura skull or looked at one in person at least at one that I think is like real and reliable. I thought it was just kind of like a little like unicorn horn, almost like Majungasaurus.
No, so okay, I have a good I got a good picture. I think it's from the Museum of the Rockies Facebook account. Actually,
Okay, please do.
That's a pretty good angle of a Maiasaura skull, also with Bebe.
Baby.
And it kind of shows that it is more or less a little bit of kind of a ridge that goes across, and less of just a unicorn horn. Because I've seen some definitely incorrect ones where they give it essentially they do the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus thing and give it two little like horns above its eyes incorrectly.
Well, that's probably because that's what it looks like on the Wikipedia page. Like, I was looking at that. There's a cast of one. Hold on, I need to pull it up again. But the picture of the skull on the left has two little nubbies, or it looks like two little nubbies above the eye. So that could be why it was reconstructed wrong. If people are interpreting those two as like separate nubbies instead of the weird bar.
I see.
Because it seems to be like the skull is kind of squished, so that's probably like there's probably like a break in the middle of it that's offsetting it, which makes it look like nubbies.
Yeah, so I think this
Yeah.
is pretty. I mean, this is not a bad interpretation what they have in the game. Then this is like a little like.
No, I don't think it's a bad interpretation. Like I myself have been kind of more liking the like expanded like nasal like soft tissue nasals look to it. It looks a little bit more like just a little bit more natural. I don't know, I don't know if we could say that that's exactly what it is for sure, but like just aesthetically I like it. But like this is not bad.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Now, Alex, how far into Phylogeny did you get? I don't remember.
Mostly. So, like, we got into, like, Saurolophines, and within Saurolophines, like Lambeosaurians, there are a lot of little tribes. I think Maiasaura is in Brachiosaurolophiny, right?
Yes. No, Brachylophosaurus.
Yeah, yes. But, I mean, there's not really... I don't think there's a lot else much to say.
No.
No. I think that's pretty much great English there.
I was in the 99th percentile for my English GRE, and now look what years of a PhD will do to you.
Well, what is interesting is you do see a kind of gradual evolutionary progression with the development of a crest in Brachylophosaurinae. Brachylophosaurus itself, I think, has the best developed one. And there's like there's members of this tribe from kind of all over. There's one from the Menifee that was named recently, Ornitops. It does seem that Brachylophosaurus is kind of the geologically youngest, and is also, just as a side note, the dinosaur I've seen with consistently the best preservation of any dinosaur I've ever seen. Its bones come from the Judith River and the Oldman formations, which are just on another level of surface texture resolution.
Really?
They're stunning.
Better
You get
than
a lot of
Mongolia?
scales.
I mean, they're kind of different, but you just get so many of these with like really fine bone texture, perfectly preserved foramina and things. Like Mongolian fossils are beautiful in a lot of ways, but surface texture, they can often be a kind of eroded. Whereas these are
Blasphemy.
often fantastic. I know.
Actually, I guess that kind of leads into. Do we have any scales for Maiasaura?
I don't think so, but I think for Brachylophosaurus, we've got a ton of skin impressions.
Cool.
So the oldest member of the group that has been discovered so far is this animal called a Christovus, which is the most primitive.
It's like Festivus, but not quite.
It's the
Christovus!
A Christovus means Crestless Grandfather, and it was named by not my postdoc supervisor, but my postdoc supervisor's husband, Bucky Gates, which is something that he worked on. I think it's starting as a graduate student. It was published after they finished grad school.
Bucky's rad.
Bucky's an amazing guy.
Only cool
that man,
dudes have the name Bucky. Like
that man
not as
can
a
cook a
joke.
pig,
And a duck.
and a duck. Oh my god, right? That was good duck.
That was
And
good.
a
Duck.
So a Christovus was named Crestless Grandfather because it did not have a crest, and it was the oldest and most primitive known member of the group.
As opposed to all of our grandfathers, which
have
absolutely.
crests. Yeah.
Yeah, my
Yes.
grandfather had a big. He'd come outside.
His nasals really
Yeah.
did something stupid over his skull roof.
You,
You should have seen his brows. They were basically just like Maiasaura here.
you know when your
had
when your parents are like, when are you going to give us grandchildren? It's because your dad is like, I want to grow my crest. I want to grow my grandfather's crest.
So there's Brachylophosaurus, which has an intermediate crest, and then Brachylophosaurus has the longest crest. I'm just ignoring whatever we said.
No, don't, because it was really funny with Dalton's. You go visit my grandfather playing bocce, and he's just this huge crest unfolds off the top of his head when he's winning.
Anyway, there's progressive development of the crest over time, and it's been argued to be an anagenetic change. But regardless of whether it's anagenetic, it is something that we see like kind of multiple steps in the acquisition in this tribe.
Yeah.
Maiasaura is the weird Brachylophosaurian for not having this really stupid folded over like nasal thing.
It's kind of
It
like a
looks like
helmet.
it has a comb over. It's got like Donald Trump's hair, but as its nasal bone.
There is for those familiar, in it's pretty well known in the paleosphere. Leonardo, the dino mummy, is a Brachylophosaurus.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of the integument and stuff of this model is based on that, which is a good thing to do. The like row of the midline kind of big chunky scales is lifted straight from those are on Leonardo. So
And they're also something that we see on some of the nicer Edmontosaurus. So like it makes sense that they could have had something like this.
Yeah, Leonardo's such a stunning specimen.
gorgeous.
Oh my god, yeah.
Scales on its feet and everything. Yeah, it's really amazing.
So on the topic of how this critter looks, what do we think of the colors and like the shape and the patterns and all that sort of stuff?
You know where we could talk about that. And
In the
assign it-
Species
viewer.
viewer.
in the species viewer, we could assign it a numerical ranking.
You don't say.
Or a literal
A lateral,
I don't
know.
alphabetical ranking.
alphabetical ranking.
An alphabetical ranking that is later interpreted by our cherished Patreon members into a numerical value.
Oh my god! Actually, wait. I have a prop for this, and it's appropriate for the Mother's Day episode. Give me a second.
Take it to the prop.
Hey, we at the Skeleton Crew love prop comedy.
We do.
We do not.
You don't like prop comedy?
I maybe I'm being a little severe because I really don't think I've ever seen prop comedy.
So, dear viewer, we are recording this episode the day after my birthday. I am now officially the first Skeleton Crew member to leave their 20s.
And you will be the last.
The last. On my birthday, my mom gave me this wonderful little birthday card that has this wonderful pop-up dino in it and stuff with all of these other little guys here too. And my mom actually in the card gave me a letter ranking too, and I'm A tier specifically. She gave me an A++, which I think is all. It could be interpreted as I think that's an H.
I think so.
She was a teacher. Plus puts me up.
Hey, James, what do we have in A tier? Let's figure out where Scott goes.
That's a good question.
I'm up there with the JP1 Velociraptor, Euplocephalus, Zongoraptorus, Pyroraptor, Albertosaurus, Nigersaurus, Indominus Rex. I got some good company.
All right, I can put you above just about all of those, but you're not passing the original Jurassic Park Velociraptor.
I know,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
not passing the original.
The rest of them, easy clear, but...
No, that's fair. I went there with Tylosaurus, too. Yeah.
Amelia, test of friendship time. Is Scott cooler than the Tylosaurus?
Cooler is not the word I would use.
Thanks.
Ooh, I would. I think he's cooler.
But is he intelligent enough to use tools?
Yes? What?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I would
that's a
hope so.
reference.
That's his whole job.
It is his whole job.
What are you talking
It's
about?
I was talking about the T-Rex intelligence
Stupid
paper.
paper.
My
Oh,
brain, I was
honestly,
like,
What was the
this is so
segue
stupid.
there?
James,
it was-
honestly, I thought I thought that you were making a deep personal cut there because there was a poster that I made when it was like my first science fair that I did as a kid, where I did a poster on like a report on how intelligent were dinosaurs, and I talked about like encephalization quotient and stuff. And the funniest thing of the entire thing was on the title of the thing I misspelled intelligent.
That's like a Simpsons joke.
How intelligent were the dinosaurs was how I spelled it. And my dad looked at it after I was done. He was like, Scott, they might be more intelligent than you.
Oh, it's over. It's over for you.
When I was like 8 or 9, I did a science fair project on animal intelligence also. And I think it's actually very telling the way I went about this. I read multiple books about each animal and gave them, like, I scored them for different traits, like you would in a phylogenetic matrix of like different things they've been documented to do. And it was probably like 10 different kinds of animal. And like I was figuring out what was the most intelligent based on the sum total score of that. And I'd read all these books and had like works cited and all of this shit. And the judges were like, okay. And then they gave the science fair prize to the guy who had the poster next to me, who asked the question of, do you get better at playing the game perfection as you get older or not? And I was, that forever soured my opinion of the
game
science
perfection?
fair. You know the game.
The one that throws things at you. It throws little yellow pieces at you.
Pop
Have you
goes
never played
perfection.
this?
I have no
did.
idea what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
like,
like-
it's like spring loaded, right?
Yeah, and you got to put all the pieces in before.
Oh, it's a timer, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We did.
Gotcha.
We did a fun torture method at the like after school care at my school, where we would put a clear bucket over the perfection and dial up the timer, and you had to just stare through you had to like see who could hold their face over the perfection game for the longest. Like, we were safe. There was a bucket, but like the idea was that you needed to hold your eyes open and watch it throw pieces at you through the bucket.
Amelia will be leaving the skeleton crew to pursue a career at Guantanamo Bay.
I participated.
Yeah.
It was equal. It wasn't really torture, but you know,
It was enhanced interrogation.
You are killing the job interview.
I will maintain before we get off of this bit that oh goodness that waterboarding at Guantanamo Bay sounds like an absolute blast of a time if you don't know what any of those words mean.
Hey, I told you that joke, Scott.
I thought
Scott, that was a
Twitter
great joke
ages
that
ago.
I've just heard from you for the only first time.
Yeah,
It's very funny, and I
It's
like
very
it a lot.
I just this science fair really was the first moment in my life. I have a couple of moments where I thought my first like adult thought, not like in a sexual context or something, but just like a thought I now have as an adult a lot. I had one where somebody said something to me that was so stupid that the only thought that entered my brain, and I want to emphasize I was maybe 7 or 8, was what I now understand to be the nonverbal equivalent of "shut the f- up." Just like when it's so stupid, it's just that dismissive.
James knew at that moment that he was actually an adult when he had his first thought of, I hate this person and they're wrong.
Well, basically. But then at this science fair, I just remembered like thinking like, oh, well, this is a load of crap, isn't it? Like, I did all this work and this guy was like, I had a toddler and an adult play perfection and the adult did better.
Well,
And they're
hold on.
First prize.
What was your result?
My result was basically that, I had a couple of surprising results. It seems that cetaceans are very... what I said as a child is it seems that cetaceans are very intelligent, but they haven't been studied in the way that a lot of primates have. Primates are obviously extremely intelligent, and animals like dogs and horses that everybody thinks are smart are just obedient. Which was...
not wrong.
I wasn't wrong about any of this. I was very upset going home from the science fair that day because I like busted my ass for weeks, and then the guy was like, "They get better when the game goes pop when they have all their motor skills developed." I was angry.
Groundbreaking.
It was groundbreaking. He broke new ground.
He broke
years to
new
make.
ground.
Anyway,
Just like this dinosaur here.
yeah, Amelia, what do you think about it?
I like it a lot. I heard earlier you guys were telling me there's some kind of discourse that this is a bad model in the game, which is so unbelievably wrong. I cannot fathom how that thought was ever articulated. Like, this has the correct shape, it has great colors, and it does a cute little bouncy thing when they interact with each other. I don't get it. I don't know where that's coming from. Like, the stupid Scoopy face like is dumb, but that's what these stupid animals had. Like, all of them that have the keratin have this weird Scoopy shovel face, which, like, okay, gross, but you know, that is what it is. But also in this, it's not like offensive. Stop. What?
I just like that.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know.
Gross, but
I
it
was
is what it
specifically
is.
laughing at like it's not offensive. I was just like, man, you should see some of its deleted tweets.
No. The good mother canceled? Question mark.
She's had a few red wines.
No, but to get back on topic, I think it's great. I've been thinking this entire time what to give it because like I think it gets the animal right as far as I can tell. Not that I work on these, but like it looks right. It gives the right amount of horse and or cow. I really like the pale face. Like just like as an aesthetic in general in the natural world, I like when animals have pale faces. I think it looks great. And a lot of the color schemes incorporate that. I'm giving it an S. I like it a lot. Like of the hadrosaurs we've seen so far, it has just been the best in my opinion. Like I'm not appalled looking at it, which like these are objectively horrible animals. So it's not entirely their fault. But I'm thinking back to like Corythosaurus is a big lump monster. And the walking billboard. Like, this is such a breath of fresh air. Like, I like it a lot.
You know, I echo that. Even as far back as Jurassic World Evolution 1, this was always something I tried to put in my parks because it looks good and it looks right. I wouldn't say this is like prehistoric kingdom tier just because I mean the styles are a little bit different, but like in terms of accuracy it's absolutely prehistoric kingdom tier. It looks very organic, it looks like a real animal, and it's a very good reconstruction of a Maiasaura. I'm also giving it an S.
I think I'm gonna have to like I'm torn between A and S because like I really like it. And like I do think that the pale face is a really interesting like distinguishing feature of it, especially because it's on all of the skins. I wish that there was a little bit more playing around you could do with some of those, but honestly it makes it so like whenever I choose them, I always choose the one that has stripes that are kind of a similar pale color, so it looks a little bit more cohesive with like the whole animal. But honestly, like it's wonderful. It's a very good depiction of the critter. Sure, it doesn't have the weird, like, hoof hand thing, but, like, whatever. It looks better without it because that's a demon thing that it did. I'll be kind and I'll give it an S tier as well. Like, it brings me joy, especially, like, the cow best friend jumping around thing that they do. It's a wonderful animal that I want to pet it. I want to like have it do the horse thing where it like puts its head down and you could like hug its entire head.
I thought I was going to give this an A. But I'm not, because I'm going to give it a low S tier because I do think it is a pretty solid animal. It looks like the animal. Its face is weird and ugly, but in like an endearing way. And it tickles the bone in my brain that likes that is like, yeah, this is correct. That's it. Someone else go.
Well, by someone else, it's me. My turn. I think when we were like we're gonna do Maiasaura, I was like, oh no, I don't like Maiasaura. I don't know why I thought that. I just had a memory that was wrong because this is a great design. I really like it. It looks like the animal. I have some qualms with how the animal looked, but I'll take those up with God. But this is a great design for Maiasaura. It's really nice looking. Like every color is good. I like these reds and I like the darks especially, but like the green is nice, brown's nice, and like tons of great.
The black is also like nice.
Yeah, the black is really pretty. And yeah, I like the pale face a lot. I like the scales on the back are great. I think they really knocked it out of the park with Maiasaura. It looks fantastic. It's an S tier for me as well.
Okay. Well,
With that, ladies and gents,
it's unanimous then. Our good mother lizard gets a very good grade, up an S tier.
Indeed.
Demonstrably now, an S tier mother. And I would say now it's time to spin that wheel, but we bumped a Trossoraptor to do this.
Yes.
So next episode's a Trossoraptor.
So enjoy.
Yep. So, sorry to take the thrill from you, but the thrill's been taken.
And in lieu of spinning a
Well,
Trossoraptor, we will have everybody in the comments be happy by just me deleting Maiasaura from the wheel. There we go. It's gone. Yeah.
Yay!
So before we go, I want to take this opportunity to thank some very important people who, without whom the Skeleton Crew would not be what it is right now. And by that, of course, I do mean our patrons, and your thanks are coming. But I want to thank my mom very briefly, because I wouldn't be anywhere that I am in my professional life, or pretty much anywhere at all, without her. And all of her support and encouragement over all the years. I would not have learned about dinosaurs without her. I would not have become a paleontologist without her. And I probably would not be sane without her. So thank you, Mom. I love you very much. And happy Mother's Day.
Oh.
Now, I'm going to thank the patrons now so that I can imply that nobody else in the Skeleton Crew likes their mothers. Because
I
they
love
don't
my mother more than
I'm
James loves her mother.
Her mother? You just
Hey,
misgendered me on camera.
Love you, Mom. Wouldn't have been able to pursue all this without your amazing support. And I really hope that the lobster risotto that I'm making for your anniversary tomorrow turns out good.
If you don't like it,
Yeah,
tell Scott to send it to me.
I wish you guys could smell my apartment right now. It's heavenly.
That is very nice.
Does it smell? Well, it smells like lobster, so it smells like rich.
I love you, Mom. I love you very much. Thank you for everything. I mean, yeah, everyone said it already. I wouldn't be where I am without you. What is there to say?
Yeah, of course. Happy Mother's Day.
Okay. So now that we've thanked our mothers, who are perhaps our largest, in my case at least, my largest financial patron, I would like to thank other financial patrons of lesser magnitude, but no lesser place in our hearts. I'm sorry, patrons. I do love my mom more than you.
How dare.
I know. I do apologize. If you unsub because of that, I understand. But I want to thank our most generous patrons of the Skeleton Crew, who include, at the time of recording, Benjamin Seepser, nickname, original username, Philip Fico, AK92, Christopher Bellis Jones, Adamolos, Camphibia. Sorry, I haven't said this one on screen yet before, so I had to figure out how to pronounce it. Camphibia, Dan O'Kyrus, Dinodom, King Zashu, Max Ironpaw, Pythonic, Swamp Ape Science, Wanderer, and Wheat. So thank you guys so much. The rest of our patrons, thank you all as well. We'll have all of your names scrolling in the credits of this video. Thank you so much for supporting the Skeleton Crew and everything we do. And we will see you next time when we talk about the Trossoraptor.
Bye-bye.
Bye.